Hi everyone, this is Mauricio with the Your Type interviews. I'm an ENTP and I am here with Hannah, who is an ENFJ. So, Hannah, thank you for coming on today. It's been great to talk to you so far.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So we'll just go ahead and get into it. Tell me about growing up. Tell me what it was like growing up as an ENFJ. What was that like?
Yeah,
What were your main What was your main focus? Your main struggles? What did that look like for you?
um, growing up as an ENFJ, I remember spending a lot of time caring about what my friends thought of me. Like, even as a kindergartner, like, I was very much, like, even before that, I would say, like, preschool, like, toddler. My mom would even describe it, like, I would make friends easily. So I would always be hanging out with kids at daycare or, like, in home videos, home movies that we have, I would be talking about what friends I made at school. So I was very social with my siblings too, especially my older brothers. Um, but I was also like from a young age, very like focused on trying to make others, especially like older, like adults, um, happy, if that makes any sense. Like
Hmm.
making sure that I was a good helper or like I
Hmm.
was making sure that I was there for them. Because I remember a specific story that my mom would tell me. She said that every time she would pick me up for daycare, at first I'd be crying, not wanting to go, but then immediately see people and get comfortable. Because it was funny, because I don't want her to leave, but I also want to feel like comfortable. So then I would feel comfortable quickly enough. And then when she'd come to pick me up, she would, before even seeing her, I would make sure to say goodbye to people and put things away, put all my toys away, and then go see her. And so it was very interesting how social settings came naturally to me and also
Hmm.
how intimate I felt with people that were in my life, like my mom or my siblings or my friends.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's like not just like not just like how comfortable and how good you were in the social settings, but also like how it was actually a source of comfort. Whereas I think a lot of people that's not the case. Like it's anxiety inducing to some capacity. I think to a lot of people.
Yeah, I can see that. Like for me, I could see that people would feel anxious when they were around people, but for me, it was always the opposite. I felt this total comfort when I was with people, especially if I had friends around or like people around. I felt
Hmm.
like, especially if I could take care or help or show anything, I was always
Hmm.
very much like that kid that would show you something. Like, I have something to show you. Like, let me teach you something. So I was always like very, like just full of life in terms of like people. But when I was alone, it was opposite. I would feel very bored and I'd feel that loneliness as a kid. I did not like being alone.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Has that changed at all since, or?
I mean, as an adult now, there are times where I enjoy my own company and I spend time by myself, but I still do like sharing things with people and like when I'm doing something by myself even, I can't wait to tell someone that I know in my life.
Yeah,
It's like people are still very much important to me. And like engaging with outside of myself is really important to me. Like
yeah,
even when I'm on my own.
yeah. It sounds like the other people are kind of like your goggles in a way of seeing the world. So
Yeah.
it's like everything. It's like with extroverted intuition. If you're like an ENTP or ENFP, like you can never get away from seeing the possibilities in things. But it's like it's kind of the same for ENFJs. I think they just can't. Everything is about people. Like even
Yeah.
if it's not,
Yeah.
it comes back to it.
Everything's about people. Like if I'm hosting a party or if I'm going to something, I think about how are my guests going to feel, but not in an anxious way, in an excited way. Like how can I make them happy? How can I have
Yeah.
fun? You know?
You know what's so interesting? that you said that is like you're usually super comfortable with like your lead function, right? Which
Yeah.
for ENFJ is an extroverted feeling, but like for me, extroverted feeling is like third, and so it's kind of like a little kid that's struggling.
Yeah.
So it's like I care about people, but it's like and I'll have an event. I had one recently,
Hmm.
and I was just like tweaking out the whole time because I was like, oh, people are not going to have fun, and it was
Yeah.
like, it's like it was like trying to pick up a dumbbell with your toes. Like it
Oh
was
yeah.
just
Oh
very
no.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So it's just like a source of fun and a source of um yeah, a source of comfort
Yeah.
overall.
It's like, let's say you're going to a party or you have an event, going to see
Yeah,
everyone is my excited, like my favorite part. So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
If people is your favorite part, what is something that you really don't like that is not a source of comfort in the same way?
With my personality,
Yeah.
I would say this idea that I can't I can't control how other people feel. I can't control things outside of myself. That's something that's really hard for me because I like to try and make things good, make things feel comfortable, make people happy. And if I fail at doing that, then I feel a lot of disappointment in myself and
Hmm.
like this lack of being able to, like, this huge disappointment that I bring to people if I don't make everything comfortable for them, which is something
Hmm.
I'm working on.
Yeah, like taking on the burden of other people's experience
Yeah,
in a
definitely.
way.
Taking on the
Yeah.
burden of their experiences, disappointing them, even if it's like
Yeah.
outside of my fault, like not being able
Yeah.
to take care of everything when things don't go as planned. That's huge for me. So like
Yeah.
if I have this perfectly catered plan, I worked hard on it. This is what's going to happen, and then things happen that I can't like again control, and I
Hmm.
have to kind of like fix it again. Even if I fix it again, like if the plan just doesn't go the way it was supposed to go, that's hard
Hmm.
for me as well.
Is it mostly in like what do you usually make plans about? Is it usually
Like
based on people and social stuff, or
it could be like
is it
something small. Like let's say I am planning, like I'm in school, like if I'm studying and I put in all this work and I have a plan on how I'm going to study, who I'm going to talk to, what I'm going to do, and I still come out short, that's hard on me because not because of the failure. I can usually bounce back by failure or whatever, but more so, what did I miss? Like, what's going
Mm.
on? And it gets even worse if, like, I talked to everyone I could talk to, I did everything I could, and I still can't figure it out. I have to learn to,
Yeah.
like, accept at that point that this is the way it is. And that's hard for
Hmm.
me to accept that this is the way it is.
Hmm. Yeah, like your judgment of how things were was incorrect in
Yeah.
some capacity. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah. So you like that extends to anything, right? Like um school stuff, social stuff.
Yeah. Work stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have more fun that way? Like do you have more fun when you're planning things out and then executing on them versus just like saying whatever happens happens?
Oh, whatever happens, happens is hard for me. Like,
Okay, okay.
just hearing that, I have to, like, I can't even, I say, like, I'll go out and I'll say, whatever happens, happens, but whatever happens, happens isn't what's going on. I'm planning everything before that happens. So,
It's kind of like, yeah, it's
yeah.
just like positive self-talk. So you like chill out.
Yeah, I make it look effortlessly, like I didn't try and it just happened, but
Yeah.
I was planning. I was working really hard.
Dude, that is totally a skill though. Like making something high effort, highly curated look low effort and
That's
uncurated.
that's
That's
what I'm all about. Like literally, yeah.
Yeah, that's a skill. That's a good skill. Not most people are not good at that. So
Thanks. It's definitely something that came naturally to me, I think. Cuz like
yeah,
yeah, like I'm a natural planner even as a kid. Like if
yeah.
I wanted something that I remember wanting to redecorate my whole room at 14, and I also wanted a part-time job, so I went to this like program that was hiring young people, and I got a
Mhm,
job in the summer, and then I used that money to plan everything and decorate my room. And like it
mhm,
looked kind of effortless because it's
mhm,
like, well, you got a job, and then you got to like I planned it all out. So
mhm. You had thought of like what you were going to do at all the stages of
yeah,
things.
the behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's handy. That's really good. I suck at that, honestly.
The trick is to find the fun in it. Like every step is fun, and then so
Yeah.
like if you're doing each step, and it's like okay, fine, doing the job hunt, looking
Yeah.
at decorations for the room. Like if you're making it fun over
Mhm.
time, then by the time it happens, you're just like, I had fun the whole time doing it. And then people are like, aren't you tired? Aren't you exhausted? Like this took a lot of work. It's like, no, I had fun.
Yeah. Which I guess it did, right? But it
Yeah.
was like you had made it fun.
Yeah.
It sounds like almost like a video game or something. There's
Yes.
like different
Yes.
stages.
Like a
Yeah.
video game. Yeah. Like a side
Yeah.
quest, like multiple side
Yeah.
quests.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Um, how do you think, so this is kind of building off of that, but a little different. Like, how do you think that your friends would describe you? And would you agree with the way that they describe you, or would you like
Um,
add something else that they wouldn't say?
that's a very good question. I think that my friends would describe me as very energetic. And they would also say that I'm really organized. And I've heard them say before that I'm intense. So,
Okay.
intense, energetic, organized, and
Mhm.
put together. I've heard that a lot too. Um,
Mhm.
what was the other
Do you
question?
agree with those?
Do I agree? The intense part, no, because I don't feel like I'm being intense. I try to make people feel comfortable. So, but
Mhm.
I guess maybe it comes off as intense. Uh,
Yeah. I was gonna ask, yeah, what part do you think they're describing as intense
I think
in that?
it's yeah. Sorry, I think it comes down to the energy level. So like the intensity of my energy. So like we're watching a movie together, and I tell them to pause it, and then I tell them what I think of that what we just saw, and like I get
Mhm.
excited and I want this deep conversation, and they
Mhm.
weren't prepared for that.
Mhm.
So like that excitement, that hype, that energy can be a
Yeah.
little much, especially since a lot of my friends are introverted. So I
Yes.
don't have it as much with my extroverted friends. Usually with them, my energy is not enough. So, but with my
Right.
introverted friends, it tends to be like, because they're so used to taking things slower and more mellow, my excitement is intense.
That makes sense. Um, so people that score lower on extroversion, on like the big five, they um they tend to have a lower threshold for external stimulus of any capacity. So like, yeah, it probably just like even the energy in the room, or like the the conversation, the desire to connect, whatever. Like it feels like a lot more to an introvert than
Yeah, I
an
can see
extrovert.
that.
Um, yeah, that's super interesting. Is there are there things that they don't know about you, I guess, or that they wouldn't say about you, but that you would add on that you think are very accurate?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of things that they may not know about me that let's see. I think they would be they'd come to be surprised with how much reflection I do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So I I do enjoy my own time, and even if it doesn't show that way sometimes. And when I am alone, I tend to definitely reflect and focus a lot about things. Like I have deep thoughts that they may not notice.
Mhm.
And I think a lot about the future and like even the present. Like I just have a lot of thoughts that I don't think they would see because I'm so quick to say things. I'm so quick to do things that it doesn't look
Mhm.
like there's time to process or time to reflect. But
Mhm.
I guess I am doing that. Just they don't see that.
Right, right. Yeah, and I mean, you also probably do it less when you're with them, right? Because you're
Yeah,
more engaged in the social realm.
yeah,
Um, so that makes sense. I've noticed one of my best friends is an ENFJ, and she like I think so. We've known each other since like middle school, so since like seventh grade or something.
yeah.
Uh, so like um, I think we're just at a point like we're super comfortable with each other, so she doesn't feel like the whole I have to take care of you, I have to make sure you're happy thing to the same extent because
Yeah.
she knows how I am. Um, and she's definitely a lot different than like other people would perceive her. Like, and when other people are like taken care of in a way, like she's definitely a lot more thoughtful, like um, a lot more rational than maybe she would come out in other situations.
Hmm.
Which I'm curious if that's the same for you
It
or
is. So, were you
yeah.
saying like your friend comes off as very thoughtful and rational with other people?
She doesn't when like generally because I think she's so accommodating that like the focus is not even her own thoughts, right?
Hmm.
Like when we're around other people. So
Hmm.
like she won't dig into what she thinks very deeply when other people are there because she cares a lot about, how other people will perceive it or like what other people think is more
Hmm.
interesting to her than what she thinks.
Yeah,
Um, but then when it's just us and we've like known each other for so long, it's more like a stream of consciousness as opposed to like
yeah,
a social dynamic. And
yeah,
so she's more like firing off thoughts, and it's a lot more insightful than
yeah.
you might think in the beginning, I guess.
That's actually my experience in so many ways. With my friends who don't know me as much, I seem very agreeable. I seem very like, and that's what I want. I want them to be comfortable. I want them to feel
Yeah.
good. But when I'm with my closer friends, it's a little bit different. I have a lot of insightful depths,
Mhm.
criticisms, thoughts that they like the other people would not think I have. It's like
Totally.
it's because I feel safe, I feel comfortable, and I know they're okay, so I can actually go more in depth. I can like one of my friends is an INTJ, and with him I can have deep, long monologues, conversations that are very much different than I would with an acquaintance.
Yeah.
But he could
Yeah, that
have
makes
that with an acquaintance, which is interesting.
yeah. Yeah, it's almost like the you have to make sure the other people are taken care of
Yeah,
first before you can, and that other people are having a good time,
yeah,
and before you can focus on the self again.
exactly. Yeah, I have to put the
To
self
some
on
perspective.
the back before I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also depends too, because like with me, or I'm sure with your INTJ friend, it's like they want you to share your thoughts. Like that makes them happy,
Yeah,
right? So even the accommodating side is to just like
that
go
is so
deep, if
true.
that makes sense.
That is so true. I
Yeah.
think you're right. On some level, I might be accommodating to certain friends because they like you're actually right. Like I think I kind of don't notice it, but when I'm with certain people, I kind of analyze in my head what would make them happy, what would make them comfortable for me to do. And then I'll
Yeah.
behave in that way. That's actually really interesting.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good tip for or like ENFJs, ESFJs in general is like spending time with different people that you want to be more like, I
Hmm.
guess,
Hmm.
uh, or that have traits that you are not as good at. Um,
Would be very.
because even in just trying to make them feel comfortable, you like adopt things.
I actually
I think.
notice that I'm easily influenced by people. Like if I spend too much time with someone, I'll adopt some of their traits. Like I have a
Yeah.
friend, she is very close to me, and like she's also very forgetful sometimes, or like she'll like leave her phone somewhere and forget it and stuff. And I'm not like that at all. Like my natural self is I know where everything is and I know how to get it done. But when I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time with her, I notice myself forgetting things, losing things. Like I adopt that. And I think it's because when I'm with her, I might suppress some of that, what I do to make her feel comfortable so she doesn't feel like weird about what she's doing. And then I forget myself. And that
Mm-hmm.
carries over.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of so for context for people listening, like we probably talked like 30 minutes or something before we recorded because we didn't know each other, so we didn't just want to jump into the fire. Um, and we did talk a lot about like how extroverts um, do run that risk of like losing a sense of self when they're being accommodating. So yeah, it's just like something to keep in mind. Like I think all extroverts like us run the risk of that to some capacity.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, that's cool. Um, okay, and then so I'm sure that you're familiar with MBTI and personality types. I'm sure you've heard some stereotypes about ENFJs. Um, do you agree with them, and are there any that stick out to you that you don't agree with for yourself?
Yeah, like the superhero idea of like, protagonist. It's like, I like the idea of like, okay, the thing about the protagonist is like the idea of like everything's about you, you're saving the day, you're making everyone happy. It's not always like true because I know my limits too.
Yeah.
And I know that I can't always save the day and I can't always do stuff. And I think that stereotype is kind of wrong. I think most of it is it's like I like people at the end of the day, and I like engaging with people and I like doing things with people. Doesn't mean that I want to save everything. I want to
Hmm.
fix everything or that I think it's
Hmm.
about me. It's more that I see the joy and the beauty of spending time with others and like but I do like there is a stereotype that I do agree with, which is like the leadership aspect of it where it's like you enjoy other people's company, you see the talents in other people, and you can kind of work with them to towards a goal, and that I find it happens in my life a lot. So
Hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, I guess if anything, it's like the anti-protagonist because
yeah,
it sounds like it's more about other people than yourself, right?
yeah,
Which is probably why the leadership side is so like it's so good because you're so focused on
hmm,
like what people need um, to get to X. Because you did mention earlier, you've got like you do have a calculating brain where you can make a plan and like and I'm sure that extends to people and like what people are capable of and like how to develop people and that kind of stuff too. I think ENFJs tend to be really good at seeing the potential in people
yeah,
and like what they can do and like kind of influencing them to become that, I guess, as well.
yeah. Because like with ENTJs, it's like efficiency is the key, but with like an ENFJ, it's like we want results, but we also want results that people are okay delivering. Like we care about the human aspect of it, not
Yeah.
just the results that we get.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I think an ENTJ and an ENFJ would approach that very differently because, like, I think an ENTJ does care about people being happy, but it's like, it's almost like in a very rational way. And it's like, oh, these are the things that will make people happy.
Yeah,
So, like, these are the things that I'm going to do. But then sometimes they don't have finesse in how they do it.
yeah,
And they get really focused on like whatever it is that they like thought of doing.
yeah,
Um, whereas I think the ENFJs are more likely to like check in, pretty regularly on like how everyone is doing and that kind of thing.
yeah.
Um, yeah. It's pretty interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so protagonist, not a good one.
Yeah.
But being good leaders, leadership, that's a good one. Um, is there anything else that sticks out to you?
Um, this idea that ENFJs never want to spend time by themselves. Like, because even if your extroverted feeling is high, there is still this like need to recuperate that is very much real. That I think
Totally.
people think I have this boundless energy that I can do anything and I'm put together, and but the reality is I can be a mess and I can be tired, and there's like a lot of stuff that they don't see,
Mhm.
that's happening as well.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you always want to put your best foot forward to other people, right? Like which you do, like it is an ENFJ thing. Like you want to present in a certain way.
Yeah.
Uh, you definitely need time to like take care of yourself
Yeah.
to be able to do that. I think in some capacity.
I feel like for all the viewers watching, if you have any ENFJ friends, make sure to remind them to take a break every now and then because they could really use that.
Yeah, yeah. That brings me to another question. So you mentioned like just now not taking a break or how sometimes you get frustrated when things don't go to plan or you can't control something
Mhm.
or you can't give somebody the experience that they want,
Yeah.
right? How do you deal with that stuff? Like how do you take that in and like how do you make yourself like be okay with that kind of thing?
In the past, I would often like just beat myself up for it and
Yeah.
see it as a failure instead of like seeing it as like a learning opportunity, and also especially a learning opportunity for acceptance. Nowadays, I have more of this like idea that like this idea of acceptance, like I can't do everything, I am just a human being.
Yeah.
um and part of it also is like um it's okay that things don't go as planned. Like that's the plan anyway. Like the plan is that nothing will go to plan at times. So
Yeah.
that has really helped, like being more accepting and reframing it in a way that makes me be okay with it helps.
Yeah. Yeah. So having that perspective of yeah, which is probably easier as you like mature a little bit,
Yeah.
just having that perspective. From that, is there advice that you would give people outside? So one of them, like you said, have that perspective um, that you don't always have to be everything to everyone, like that kind of thing. Um, is there anything else that comes to mind, like something that you think would have helped you or would have been valuable for you, especially when you were younger and had a certain way of navigating the world?
Yeah, I think at a younger age, I wish that I had known that sometimes people are more comfortable if you do nothing. So, like,
Mhm.
sometimes people don't actually want you to hover or give them, like, they don't want you to think about what they want. They just want you to just exist. And,
Mhm.
like, then that would put a lot of pressure off of me. And I could
Mhm.
just kind of enjoy the moment instead of planning everything out, trying to make everything perfect. Because I definitely struggled with perfectionism and people
Mhm.
pleasing uh, behavior. And I think that as I got older, I realized that it's burning me out, and then I'm not able to do anything anyway. And then I would
Mhm.
I would deal with that kind of disappointment from that kind of burnout. Um, but also, I would tell myself, don't feel ashamed for your energy, and
Mhm.
keep that energy if you have it. Like be happy, show your emotions, because I'm a very expressive person. I smile a lot.
Mhm.
if I cry, I cry a lot. Like even my boyfriend who's an ENFJ, he'll cry at movies. Like we're just more expressive. We show our emotions more, and that wasn't always seen as a good thing in the past. And now people
Mm-hmm.
are starting to realize it's okay. Like it always was
Mm-hmm.
okay. And so that I wouldn't change. Like I think it's okay to be human and to be excited about stuff and to feel my emotions. So I would tell myself to not put so much pressure on myself to be perfect, to just be human. The same way that I want to see the humanity in others. Like I see people that, like if I see a person crying or I see someone who is, feeling a certain way, like I feel differently for them than I would for myself. So I would tell myself to see myself, the self, as like a person as well. Don't just forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially from the perspective of, yeah, perfectionism, which usually comes with a lot of self-criticism. And it's like if you if you see yourself as a person and you're a person that is super oriented in making other people feel good, then why would you treat why would you treat yourself a person like that way, right? Like it doesn't using that frame, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think that's all I've got actually. Thank you for being on. It was great having you on.
Thank you for having me again. It was really fun.